This is the Between Ghosts of El Paso Part 2. Let's do some recapping. Last time we met our hunters, and they began the investigation of their first threat, the lady in white. As a reminder, the threat was essentially a ghostly woman caused a supply wagon to get to sort of violently get tossed from the road, and a deputy who I believe's name is Wainwright. Yes, Deputy Wainwright brought the story to the Vigilance Committee, and the Vigilance Committee began kind of, investigating this. This is the start of the troubles for this season of The Wounded Knight. You have 4 clues presently. And the characters you've met so far are Deputy Wainwright, of course, Tessa Schuster, who is one of the general store owners, her partner, Lucia Ortiz, who's the other general store owner. And then we met Brandy Carson, though I don't think you actually have her name yet, but you met Brandy Carson, who is a homesteader staying in the barn behind the ruined Carson homestead, and she seems to know that Slade is death. And so we saw Slade go into her barn, but we didn't actually see any scene or what transpired at that point. But I think it's safe to say that you have kind of a connection to her, Slade, and might have learned her name as well. So that's sort of where things are with that. In terms of conditions, Wyatt Walker has Wistful. Slade has Death Touch, which is permanent. Sister Mary Erstwhile has an Absence and Chilled to the Bone. And the Sidewinder Kid has Shaky. Does anyone have any questions about anything before we begin? And does anyone have like a beginning of session move that we need to resolve that you can think of? Or does anybody want to highlight one of their moves, or so we can lean into it as we play? Okay, in that case, let us begin. We start with the day phase, of course. I will present a new threat. If there are less than 3 active threats, there are currently less than 3 active threats. You can follow along on the threat tab if you wish. Our new threat is called the Daisy Man. The Daisy Man. A series of burglaries has taken place on Santa Fe Street. Gambling halls, saloons, and private safes have all been hit. The newspapers have dubbed the perpetrator the Phantom Burglar of Santa Fe Street on account of rumors suggesting the criminal was able to pull off the heists without opening doors or windows, and in one case was said to have been shot at point-blank range by a security man, but the bullet passed right through them without a scratch. Others call the burglar the Daisy Man, since the calling card of a single daisy was left at each crime scene. The children, industrious as they are, have already come up with a song that they sing in the streets of El Paso. Daisy Man, he moves through the walls. Daisy Man, you'll never hear him call. When the locks are tight and fast and the midnight hours pass, look out, Walt, he's in the vault. He's in without a blast. When you shoot right through his chest and the red should fill his vest, look out, Scout, he's still about. The Daisy Man is blessed. Should mention here that Walt is the name of the security man who shot him. And so kids they've got all their details and research done, right, for this song. It's pretty good. Who has the highest reason? Appears to be.
Oh,
we got
no.
3 zeros and a -1.
3 zeros and a -1. Okay.
We are not very reasonable.
Apparently not. I'm going to pose it to Sister Mary Erstwhile. Sister Mary Erstwhile, this is not trickery or smoke and mirrors. What detail from the newspaper stories confirms the burglar can literally walk through walls? Think on it for a bit if you need to.
I think there's footprints in the dust that one of them is exactly half out of side of one wall and half in the other wall, with the exact right amount of space in between to indicate, the center of the foot in the center of the wall, in a way that There's no footprints leading up to it to stage this. It's just clearly somebody walked through the sand and the dust somehow through this wall.
I love it.
And
Yeah, that's perfect. Now, a stagecoach has just delivered a large cash deposit to the First Bank of El Paso, which will be having its grand opening any day now, a likely target for the Daisy Man. But first things first. Is the Daisy Man a ghost, summoned by the strange power of the wounded knight? Or is he a man, manipulating the energy unleashed by the wounded knight to become incorporeal? And so that is your first question and opportunity for this threat, which is the Daisy Man a ghost or living person? And it's a complexity 2, fairly straightforward. And it unlocks the next appropriate question when you answer it. You also have an aspect of the Janus Mask here called the Mask of the Cat. Each hunter narrates a time when they secretly entered a building at night for a purpose they hoped would never be revealed. And so, let's go around the table and find out what everyone is interested in doing today. As a reminder, I know you all know, but maybe for people watching the video, you can continue the investigation of the Lady in White or begin the investigation of the Daisy Man. You can frame up intimate scenes with another hunter in order to clear conditions. You can focus on one of your dawn questions, maybe have a scene that kind of shows you doing your dawn question. If you're very clever, you can do all 3 in one go. Whoever has a thought for what they want to do first, we'll go in order of the sheet. Sidewinder Kid, having just, this is probably a few days after last time, having, maybe still riding on the high of having dropped a rival. What do you want to do today?
But still with that shaky condition. So I'm thinking of a scene to clear that. But I think the natural thing to do would be to see what my brother wants me to do.
Very interesting. Well, Marshall Walker.
I think I'm kind of on the outs with you. I think I'm kind of dodging you, but I do want you to bring me that whittling tools you've got stashed away in your room.
Sounds good. And I'm actually curious, is this one of those situations where you cannot request a scene from the marshal for purposes of triggering the vulnerable move, but they may do so from you. So are you doing that, Wyatt?
I think so.
We'll pick up with that then in a bit. Sister Mary?
well, I do have 2 conditions. I wouldn't mind having a vulnerable scene with anybody who is feeling vulnerable at the moment.
Slade,
the only
you have
other
no
person
condition to
with
clear, but
yeah.
Slade can't clear it, but you can certainly still have the scene.
Yeah. Well, the only other person with a condition is the kid, and I think because they're waiting on their brother's orders, I think I will just actually, if I recall correctly, I didn't have a chance to go back in and listen to the last one. If I recall correctly, I think I took a bone from the deceased, one of the deceased that I went into. I took something.
There was a jawbone.
A
that you took,
jawbone, I
but it was in a
think.
pocket.
Yeah.
It was in a pocket. Yeah.
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 I think I'm going to frame up a scene where I put the jawbone where I want to put it. So I got stuff I want to do by myself.
Oh, very intriguing. Okay, well, I'll come back to that. Well, then, Slade, what do you want to do?
Maybe spend a bit more time with Lady Brandon Carson.
Brandy Carson. Sounds good. Let's start with Wyatt and the Sidewinder Kid. I'm not gonna keep like humoring that. Wyatt and Travis. Let's go. Let's have the scene. You haven't earned it yet. What is the scene? Wyatt, you can frame it up. What's happening here?
I think it's in the morning and Wyatt is still kind of bloodshot from the night before. And he's just sitting there in the not very furnished front room of the marshal's old place. There's like a 3/4 empty bottle of something kind of within fingertip range of where he's sitting. And whenever Wyatt like hears his brother, he kind of calls out without moving his head or anything. Travis, that you? Bring me that whittling nonsense you keep back in your room. I need it.
And we hear Travis kind of fumbling around for a couple of moments, and then he comes in with the whittling tools. What you need it for, Wyatt?
And he just kind of looks at you and then like reaches out to take it. And just starts carving on like part of the banister or something conveniently close, just kind of cutting pieces off of it, not really making a meaningful shape.
I think Travis goes to the table where Wyatt was sitting and picks up and looks at the bottle that was sitting there. A little early for this, no? Ain't you got a pot of coffee on?
I'm too young to drink coffee, Travis.
Shit. Too young to drink coffee, but I can drink whiskey. Is that it, Wyatt?
It's not yours. You leave that bottle where it is. I'm not finished with it.
What is going on with you today?
And he kind of turns his head up towards you, and you see that his eyes are red, not just from the drink, but looks like he's kind of been crying. Travis, what were you thinking? You just shot somebody, you killed him. If he hadn't drawn first, if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I'd have to arrest you right now.
It was him or me, Wyatt. What was I supposed to do?
I know it's him or you, but you're playing a fool's game, boy. You're trying to provoke people into this, and I know it. I see it happening. But there ain't nothing unlawful about that part of it. And you're just lucky that I saw him draw first. Otherwise, I'd have to put you up. I don't want to put my own brother up.
I can't help if I'm fast, and that sends man to look for me. You want to prove they're faster? How's that my fault?
You know that's not what's happening, Travis.
So tell me, what's happening?
You're trying to live it up. And he pulls up over near the banister. He had one of your adventure novels, and he starts carving pieces off of it like you're some kind of rootin', tootin', shootin' son of a gun. Throws it down at your feet.
Well, hell, Travis, Wyatt, I gotta live up to you, no?
You got to live up to me, boy. You try and live up to me, you will end up in jail.
That feels like a good pause. And the reason why is because this was Wyatt's vice, the whittling. And so Wyatt has control over what happens next. And so you're both entitled to clear condition. If you can make the case for it, maybe drinking whiskey clears shaky, maybe having this like sort of clear-eyed conversation clears wistful. I'll let you both decide if you think it's cleared. But Wyatt gets to now, because it was Wyatt's vice, decide if you want to stumble on a clue in the scene, Wyatt, that you get to define, or for either threat, or you can invite Travis to invite you a question about the past, and your mention of like ending up in jail does indeed hint at your own criminal past, and so that might be a nice opportunity to do that. But of course, it's your choice, Wyatt. So what do you think?
I think that I'm in a mood where I would maybe answer something about my past, so I want to bite a question.
Think of your question, Travis. I'm going to cut over to Slade. Slade, we'll just fast forward to having you at the Carson homestead, and indeed the barn behind the old farmhouse. And as a reminder, the Carson homestead itself is the main building is collapsed, and there's weeds and small brush all over the place, rusty farm implements, that kind of thing. And the small barn is leaning on one side, but parts of it have been recently shorn up to stabilize it against collapse. And despite its sort of dilapidated condition, we talked about last time how there's evidence of someone living there, and indeed Brandy Carson is living in the barn. Now, we also think that the lady in white is somewhere in the vicinity of this place because it's right up from the road of where she's been spotted before. As you are approaching the barn, Slade, someone calls to you. Hello? Hello there?
He'll stop walking and just turn and look toward the voice.
It is a young man with a quick smile and hand extended to shake. He has a stained shirt and broad-brimmed tan hat, and he's kind of walking his horse up the road. He's like, "Hello, I'm Tomas Chavez. I'm a courier from Austin, Texas. Do you know it?"
No.
And he's confused because that was just a joke. But I see he doesn't know how to respond to you saying no. And he kind of looks at you and goes, got it. Well, it's I actually I wasn't expecting to see you here when I came up the ridge.
Who were you expecting?
Well, I just saw something strange a ways back along the way. A woman walking like she was headed to a wedding or something, but she was all alone. Well, I think maybe she wanted me to stop, but I was in a bit of a hurry. But then I thought better of it, and I turned around, and she wasn't anywhere. I'm on state business. I really got to hurry, but well, I kind of thought she'd be here. I don't know where else she could have gone.
She may well be. Would you like to help me find her?
Oh, well, I am in a bit of a hurry, but, well, I get the impression you're not the kind of fellow that frequently has people disagree with whatever he wants them to do. And in any case, I've got a sandwich that's burning a hole in my pocket or something. And he notices you still have not shaken his hand.
Yeah, he will just keep his hands at his side, and he'll look a little quizzical at the burning a hole in his pocket comment, but then say, if you check near the homestead, I will search the barn. Call if you see anything.
He's like, "Oh, yeah, okay, sure. I'll head over there." Creepy place, huh? My God, someone needs to clean this up.
He'll just turn, start walking back toward the barn.
Indeed. Sister Mary, what are you doing today?
I think since what was a few days ago, all that stuff happened. I think since those last few days, Sister Mary has basically just been laying in bed, not doing anything, not getting up, just being woeful and kind of a sad sack. And I think that probably because she lives in the house, she rents a room from the good doctor in the town, and the doctor has been leaving food outside of her room and muttering about how slothful she's being. You know, she's supposed to be one of the leaders of the community and not doing anything. Nobody's even seen her face. Not worried about her, which is weird, but fine. I think eventually though, she gets up and she's shaking. She's cold still. And she reaches over to the little nightstand next to her little bed and picks up the jawbone, the one with the 3 teeth that she took from Jose. And looks at it for a long time before she walks over to her very small closet. She pushes aside all the very drab dresses and clothing. You know, it's very boring clothes. But also there's a few like really risque things in this closet. So she pushes all of that aside and slides the panel behind the clothes in the closet aside to reveal a very weird oh my god, why is my brain frozen? Sorry, I have a little bit of a fever today. The thing people pray at, altar. There's an altar with a bunch of different items surrounding it. There's a bloody rag. There's what looks like maybe pieces of fingernails. There's just a lot of little strange things set around on this altar. And she delicately puts the jawbone down and falls on her knees in front of it, on her hands and knees even, looking up into the sky if it were visible. And she says, "My Lord, I know that everything beautiful in this world is because you allow it. And everything terrible in this world is because you allow it. I've seen things the last few days. I've seen them, but I don't feel them. Where are you? I need reassurance. I feel nothing. I feel nothing, and I need guidance." And she starts to rock back and forth, muttering to herself a psalm about beauty and horror, about the battle between good and evil, and about being stuck in this middle place where there is no good, there is no evil, there's nothing, being stuck in the nothing. And I think that's all she's doing this morning.
I like it. Good. Thank you. So, Sidewinder Travis, have you decided on a question to pose to Wyatt?
Yeah, I think I want to ask him. You shot enough folks in your time. Why you said so dead set against me defending myself?
I'm not dead set against you defending yourself, Travis. But I am dead set against you living some kind of life of crime where you try and draw them out. As for me shooting people, well, there's a time in a different life that I regret, and I'm paying my penance now for all of that. I don't know if you'd understand. As far as the souls that I've shot since then, well, that's part of my penance. That's part of the cruelty of justice that I have to bear. That's part of why that bottle's 3/4 empty. It grows on you. The bodies, the weight. You don't just shoot them and forget, Travis. You carry a piece of them, the heaviest piece of them, from now until you're in your own grave. And that's justice. But it's cruel. And I don't want you to have to do that. So come on, just keep those guns in those holsters as long as you can.
You got me all wrong, Wyatt. I don't go looking for no trouble. But I'll do what I can to avoid it.
I
Now,
suppose that's all I can ask. And I'll take that as a man's promise. He takes the bottle and he pours one for you.
It's good. It's a good scene. Slade. Brandy Carson meets you at the entrance to the barn. She's kind of looking over your shoulder at Tomas Chavez, poking around the house a little bit. I'll remind you that she appears much older than she actually is. And she's strong despite her emaciated frame. And of course, you get that smell of moonshine that wafts into your face. She says, well, I didn't know if you'd be back, but here you are. You're a lot less gloomy seeming in the day.
The lady in white is drawing attention to your homestead.
Lady in
If
white.
you help me find her, it would be better for you as well.
Yeah, I can do that. Maybe, well, maybe you can help me with something too.
Something such as?
Well, and then she kind of invites you to go in a little, kind of come into the barn.
It'll follow.
And she takes you to a young man, probably in his 20s. She says, this is my nephew. And he's laying in a bed, clearly very, very sick, sweats and all that. And he's kind of mumbling, clearly in pain. She says, I know that he will soon be crossing that great threshold, but I wish for his sake it would happen a little faster. I don't have the wherewithal to do it myself, and I thought perhaps you might help me.
I think he'll look down at the young man and just stare in silence for a moment, and then there's no coming back from this.
She's like, yeah. Well, who can say though, right? Lady in white, she came back from something, right? The
There
season
should
of
be
the
no
wounded
coming
knight.
back.
Yeah. That red moon in the sky has a different thing to say about that, doesn't it?
The Red Moon and I do not agree. I can help your nephew.
Sister Mary erstwhile, what do you do after you're done at your shrine?
I think in order to try and find some explanation as to what happened to her, she's going to head back out to the Carson homestead, where all of this is going down.
I think we'll just kind of put you in time, or kind of right as Slade is in the middle of this conversation with Brandy Carson, and as Tomas Chavez is poking around. You don't see Tomas Chavez, Sister Mary. You hear him. You hear him crying, weeping on the other side of the collapsed house. You have to get closer to see what he's saying, but he is saying something. What do you do?
She actually sighs a little bit with annoyance. So sighs with annoyance and then says to herself, well, I suppose it's time for the religious person in the neighborhood to do their job. And sighs again. She walks over to this crying individual. My child, what is wrong?
You see him, he's as I described him before, except now he's on his knees and he has tears streaming down his face. And he looks at you and he says, I think I'm going to be alone. I'm going to be alone until I die.
What is your name?
Tomas. I'm from Austin, Texas. Do you know it?
What kind of question is that?
No, just a bit of courier humor.
Tomas, I am Sister Mary Erstwhile. You may call me Mary. And she's going to take his hand in a, standing up above him, holding his hands very gently. And she says to him, I think you need to understand that we're all alone, always, all of the time. We all die alone. That is what life is. You live alone and you die alone. And the faster you understand that, the faster you're going to be off this dirty floor without crying anymore. You're going to man up and you're going to face your world with some dignity.
He says, wait, though, aren't you supposed to tell me how I'll never be alone so long as I've got God and Jesus on my side? Like, isn't that your job?
If God has abandoned you, then who am I to say that he should change his mind?
I will tell you, Sister Mary, how can you tell that whatever he's experiencing right now is not natural?
He is sweating. He is sweating, but his sweat is tinged with a scent of grass burning, that sort of gross smell of something that's on fire.
Make weirdly enough, I think this is an information move with sensitivity.
All right. Oh, what's my sensitivity? I don't think it's very good. Oh no, sensitivity is my good one. Never mind. That is a 12.
Nice. We'll come back to that in a moment. Travis Walker, after you're done getting read the house down by Wyatt, what do you do? Got two threats. One of them pretty promising. They're on Santa Fe Street. Don't have to go that far.
That's the one I was thinking about.
Mm.
I think Travis will turn to Wyatt and say, well, if you're done lecturing me, Wyatt, I think I'm going to go take a look along Santa Fe Street. See if I can make myself useful. Maybe you finally pin a badge on me one of these days.
Yeah, just don't shoot me, buddy.
Yeah, you don't get too much deeper in that ball, too.
Not
So
a whole lot more depth to it.
Let me give you the lay of the land here. The Rio Grande Gambling Saloon is the largest saloon on Santa Fe Street, and it was the first victim of the burglaries. A smaller joint, a gambling den called the Golden Spur, was also hit. That's where the burglar was shot. The security man at the Golden Spur shot him. There's also just like the boardwalk. There's that bank that just moved in. Some other notable things on the Santa Fe Street. The El Paso Times office is on Santa Fe Street. This is a major thoroughfare in the city or in the town. What do you go? Or what do you go? What do you do? Or where do you go?
I think I'm gonna go to the smaller gambling place and see if the security man is there and I can talk to him.
Let's talk about the Golden Spur, a small semi-private gambling den that serves a more exclusive clientele than the Rio Grande gambling saloon does. They're right across the street from each other. It boasts rich woods, thick carpets, and brass fixtures polished to a high shine. There is a bar serving expensive liquor and just a few card tables, all of them high stakes. Now, normally, the security man, Walt, is Walt of the song. Normally, Walt is outside of the Golden Spur, but he's not because he's, I think the experience shook him. Paint the scene, everyone. As Travis is stepping into the Golden Spur, how do we know that the Golden Spur is only for people who can afford it?
You are required to check your weapons. Check your weapons at the door as long as they can see them. If they're hidden, well, some people are going to be clever about it. You are required to check your weapons at the door, but you pay for the privilege of doing so, although you're not allowed in if you don't. And it is not cheap.
It's even more than that. At the door where you would hang your weapons, they have hooks that are high polished brass hooks, and they have your name below the hook where yours belong.
I think there's no bar visible that you would kind of stand and prop yourself up at if you were just hanging out or, in a lower class joint. It's all table service and the drinks come from out back.
I think the front door has no door handles. There are doormen on either side who will knock to allow entrance, and then they will open from inside. And they're very discriminating.
Nice, thank you. I'm just checking the characters real quick to see who should be here. So give me one moment. Walt normally would be. Poor Walt. There is a barman at the bar. I don't know if you know him, but if you want to talk to him, you can. There's also Clarence O'Toole, a rather legendary gambler in town. He's wearing a pale yellow suit with a green paisley waistcoat and bright orange tie. He stands out. Brown curly mutton chops and slightly overweight. He frequents all the finest gambling establishments in El Paso. Everyone knows his favorite game is 3-card Monte, though he's terrible at it. And he'll be the first one to see you, and he'll say, "Well, Travis Walker, the Golden Spurs seems like the kind of place that is perhaps a little bit outside of your, how shall we put it, financial capability."
I'm not here for pleasure, sir. I'm here on official business.
Official business, I see. Is it something we should all be worried about? I personally feel a little bit put out by the fact that Walt was not out front checking weapons, and I can see, Travis Walker, that you are currently loaded for bear.
Like I say, sir, I'm on official business. I ain't obliged to check my weapons in if I'm on official business for the marshal.
Oh, I see. He finally deputized you then, huh?
Travis kind of doesn't respond to that question, but moves on briskly.
If I had to guess, what you're actually here doing is looking for the phantom burglar of Santa Fe Street. Do I have it right?
That would be exactly right, yes. Do you know something about that?
Maybe I do, maybe I don't. I presently He looks around. There's nobody else in the bar except for the barman. I presently do not have, well, a drink. Let's start there.
Ain't it a little early for that?
Oh, come now. Gotta get going. You gotta start early. Let that be a lesson to you, young man. Anybody who wants to make their way in this world, who wants to accomplish anything, you gotta get up, pull up your bootstraps before the crack of dawn and get going. Of course, some of us have luck. Luck comes and goes for us few that make our living amongst the saloons and casinos of the world, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Well, if where you're going to is into the bottom of the bottle, I wish you luck.
Perhaps. So how about that drink?
And Travis will just kind of make a gesture to the server.
We'll come back to this. Wyatt, what are you up to?
I think I'm gonna make my way down the boardwalk on Santa Fe Street, see if there's any commotion or fuss or anything, like there's been another event.
Let's talk about the boardwalk. This wide street crosses the busy San Francisco Street in the middle of El Paso. For several hundred yards on both sides of the street is a wooden boardwalk in front of the businesses. You will notice this time of day, it's getting to be kind of like late morning, I guess. There's not too many people around, but a salesman has a small windmill set up in a wagon and is trying to get people's attention. Let's paint the scene, everyone. Looking at this wagon, how can we tell the salesman is just passing through?
He's dressed wrong for the weather. Like it's hot in Texas, and he's dressed like he's from a cooler climate, and just sweating hard. Like he's wearing a dark suit, and that's a mistake.
And he's not wearing a hat to shade his head from the sun, and he's got a real nasty sunburn.
His trunks are all packed up, like he is not intending to unpack them anytime soon. They're sort of really Jenga'd in on the wagon.
And we see him chewing on a piece of jerky, taking it out from a box with a rather large collection. He's not intending on stopping anywhere for a bit.
Indeed. He's got kind of an easy smile, and he sees you, Wyatt. How do you do, sir? Lloyd Miller, pleased to meet you. Are you tired of pumping your own water? Of course you are. And I've got just the thing. A miniature windmill to operate your own pump. Can you believe it? The technology these days, incredible. And we're throwing in these little beauties to sweeten the deal. And then he holds out an air rifle, like a kid's air rifle.
What you got there?
Well, this is a little air rifle. It has a brand name, and I can't remember what it is. Hold on. He says, tells you the name of it. He says, handsome devil like yourself, I gotta believe you have a little one running around who'd get a kick out of it.
There you'd be wrong. But that's an interesting sales tactic.
Well,
yes.
Can I interest you in a windmill?
I don't know. How's it work?
You see the wind catches these sails here, and he'll start to go through the mechanics of the pump,
right,
and how it works.
Right. Yeah, and how it's going to replace me having to like pump the thing outside my place.
Yeah.
I don't know if we get enough wind around here, stranger. But what brings you into town?
Well, I work for the Plymouth Iron Windmill and Sundries Company out of Michigan, a little bit far from home. Well, just trying to make a sale, trying to earn a buck. I hear
you got your peddler's paperwork all put together.
Oh, I didn't know I needed such a thing. Are you
pull my jacket back to show the badge.
He's like, oh, well, I was, let me see, I'm sure it's around here somewhere. And he starts going through his materials.
I'm not trying to cause you trouble, but we have had a bit of mischief on this street recently. And so I'd be amiss if I didn't ask the only stranger in town if he had his paperwork in order.
Make the information move with presence.
7.
All right, we'll come back to that in a bit. Slade. You touch the nephew. His name is Otis Carson. And you feel that initial, like, sort of the withdrawing, is taking something from you, thing that will end his life. And he rasps, and he almost looks like grateful. His eyes wide, sweat beating down his forehead. But then he lives. Brandy says, seems you may have lost your touch there, Mr. Slade.
I wouldn't recommend we test the theory.
Perhaps
This
not.
is
Perhaps
most
not.
unusual.
What do you think it means?
I'm not certain, but I am not comforted by the implications.
Mechanically, per your move, the fact that Otis did not die is a clue for the lady in white. Note that here. Whoever wants to note it, please do so. But basically, Otis Carson did not die when touched by death. Sister Mary Erstwhile, you're getting a clue and a mastermind clue. Let's take a look at what we got here. And you were essentially kind of coming into the realization that whatever this sort of like shock of sudden loneliness that it befell Tomas Chavez is sort of being caused by the ghost or caused by some of the energies, or maybe just by the wounded knight itself. And you get a clue. A wind blows in. I better check the current clues so I don't duplicate. Hold on. Yeah. A wind blows in, and you are suddenly caught up in a little sirocco, an eddy of white rose petals swirling around you and Tomas. And he says, he's kind of looking all around in wonder. Isn't that something?
Yes. It is. What?
I suppose it's a sign from God, right?
Yes. That is.
Maybe it's like white flowers, like a wedding. Like maybe I won't be alone for the rest of my life.
Child, get up. Regardless of what's happening here, which I'm sure is, well, not to get into the actual dogma of things, but I think you should get up and get back to your work of couriering. You know, that's neither snow nor hail nor flowers should stop you from delivering what you need to be delivering.
He's like, right, right. As he gets up and as this little wind current settles down, you'll notice that the rose petals have landed in a really particular shape and pattern. Maybe it's nothing, but it seems too precise to be a coincidence. The rose petals are making the shape of the eye of a needle, perhaps, or a spoon, or a noose. Probably a noose.
Sister Mary eyes this for a moment and then very casually uses her foot to disrupt the pattern because she's doing it because she doesn't want Tomas to see it and read into things even more. Because if she, a person who is religious and believes so strongly, right? If she doesn't get to have that sort of epiphany, then he doesn't either.
Indeed. We'll pick up with Travis for a bit, and then we'll go on break. Travis, you have the incredibly expensive drinks that you bought for you and Mr. O'Toole. And Clarence says, well, thank you mighty kindly. I suspect this is probably a whole day's allowance for you, wasn't it, Travis Walker?
Oh, I'm sure the marshal's per diem will cover this.
Perhaps. Oh, I love El Paso. El Paso was always on my circuit of towns out west. Though this is the first time I've been here in about 6 years, truth be told, these last couple months. Doing pretty well for myself, though, so far.
Where you been traveling to?
Well, I like to hit all the up-and-coming burgs in and around Texas and the Southwest. I find that men and women out around these parts, they care more about their pride and looking foolish than learning how to play cards well. It makes for easy pickings. All on the up and up, mind you.
Is that right?
It is right, indeed.
And let me ask you this. You heard tell of any similar phantom to this one? Robbing places in any of them other towns you've been to?
He gives you a little smile and sips his fine whiskey. Roll the information over the presence.
Well,
all right.
I got a double 5 in the presence of 2.
Sounds good. Let's take a 5-minute break. We'll come back and continue. Let's go ahead and get our clues that are hanging in the air resolved real fast. Wyatt, the salesman is making a great show of going through his papers and personal things in his little wagon there. And while he's doing that, he's setting some things aside. And he sets down it's like a pocket watch. It's a kind of pocket watch that has like a little lid on it, right? And he sets it down face down. And on the back of the pocket watch, there is an engraving of a daisy on the back of the pocket watch. And if you just casually pick it up and flip it over, the front has an engraving matching one of Del Sol's tattoos. How does that make you feel? You absolutely recognize it as one of Del Sol's tattoos.
I don't know. It makes me wonder if he's up to no good in this spot after all. I want to trust Del Sol, but I don't know that he is completely trustworthy.
take a condition just to memorialize that feeling of, we'll call it, you can't trust the sun. There's actually more of a clue here as well. And if you pop open the pocket watch to look at the actual face, it appears to be broken. There's little bits of spring work kind of busted out behind the glass. And the whole thing is kind of rusted, to be honest. But it is stopped at 117. And that's the full clue. A rusted watch with daisy engraving stopped at 117. And the man who introduces himself as Lloyd Miller says, well, gosh, Marshall, I don't know what I did. I guess I'll maybe I can come by your office and reapply later on today.
Yeah, we can get the paperwork sorted out. It's not a huge big deal. But
Great. Yes, good.
Make sure you do come by before too long.
I will, of course. Well, you come back by if you want to give one of these pumps a try.
Sure thing.
Indeed.
Best be on my way. I'm gonna hang on to this as collateral for the meantime.
He's
Kind
like,
of grab.
He's like, oh yeah, sure. He doesn't seem to like even care. Like, meanwhile, Travis, Clarence O'Toole leans in to you, almost, I'd say, like conspiratorial, a little bit even. And he says, Travis Walker, member of the Vigilance Committee, brother of law enforcement, surely, if for no other reason than just pure by accident, some sort of deductive skills would have landed in your lap. But I can see that you have overlooked something of some importance, Mr. Walker. I, of course, being a legendary card shark, do not overlook such things. I notice details. It's the details, Mr. Walker, in the environment. For example, did you notice when you walked in and he points over towards the bar, that mirror behind the bar is not usually covered. And indeed, there's a big cupboard. The mirror is covered. So now you don't necessarily have any reason to know this, but I was at the Rio Grande Saloon the morning after it was hit by the so-called phantom burglar, and I noticed that all of its mirrors were covered as well, small and big. I imagine, indeed, I know for a fact that must be a clue as to what's going on.
You think this phantom is breaking mirrors?
I don't reckon I know what it means, Mr. Walker. That is your job.
Huh. Well, it is mighty strange. And Travis will saunter over to take a look under the covering and see. Is
The
it
mirror is
broken?
fine.
Is it?
No, it's not broken.
Say, why is this covered up? He says, talking to the
barman looks up and says, oh, I don't really know. And he helps pull the cover off. It's like, I don't know, maybe they were cleaning or something yesterday. Didn't want to get any dust on it.
Travis will look around to see if there are any other mirrors in the room.
Yeah, there's a little small mirror in like a kind of back hall. It's also covered with a cloth.
Well, ain't that
That's your
all?
clue. Clarence O'Toole gets up and says, "Oh, thank you for the drink, Travis Walker. It was very nice indeed. I wish I was here to actually enjoy the rest of the afternoon, but I am not. I must go and find myself a much, much nicer cravat than anything I managed to bring with me this time. I am to have dinner with the lovely Isabella Reynolds. Do you know Isabella Reynolds?
I don't believe I do.
Well, Ms. Reynolds is, she's big time sort of land development person. Recently arrived in El Paso, and, well, she's put out word that she wants to have dinner with people in the know. Well, I consider myself something of a man in the know, not just of El Paso, but of course, all the fine towns in this region.
Looking to get into the property business, Mr. O'Toole?
Never put all your bushels in the same basket, or some such thing, Travis Walker. Let that be a life lesson. Gambling is fun, but you got to diversify.
Travis, yeah, kind of looks to one side as though he's really taking that in.
He sort of tips his hat to you and says, "I'll let you know how my dinner with Ms. Reynolds goes. You might be looking at, well, an up-and-coming land baron in this part of the country."
Well, again, I wish you luck. Don't drink too many more of those fancy cocktails before you go to dinner.
I have a feeling that Ms. Reynolds is a sort of champagne type of woman. And he leaves. And Slade. Brandy seems mildly distraught that you were not able to help her with her nephew, but also somewhat bemused by you being a little out of sorts in terms of what you thought you were capable of doing. She herself experienced it until you saved her.
Tell me how we came upon this illness.
Well, I reckon it's just regular old consumption. But, well, truth be told, I didn't expect him to find him here at all. He was here first. I don't know what brought him back to this old place, but I got word and I came. This homestead is not a good place, Mr. Slade. Have you been back out to the fields yet?
I have not.
Well, I imagine walking in those fields would send a chill even up your spine.
I shall find out.
Well, Otis, looks like it's you and me and the pillow after all.
No,
As you make your way out of the barn.
no, he'll turn and say, "I will help. I just need to learn how."
Oh, all right. Good. Sorry, it's just a bit of gallows humor. She sits down on the edge of the bed. Where do you
There's
go
a little
after that?
funny about the gallows.
What do you do at that point?
Let's go check out this field.
Indeed. You'll probably see at that point Sister Mary and Tomas across the way there. We can just have the scene there. Tomas says, "No sign of her yet. I did find this one, though. Hardly a lady in white, though."
Oh, okay. Sister Mary gives him a dirty look.
He's like, "Oh, I
That's
didn't mean nothing by it. I
extraordinarily
just meant, like, nuns' habits are normally black."
Nuns aren't required to wear habits all the time. You realize that. This isn't the 1500s.
Well, I know. I'm just sorry, just a bit of courier humor.
Courier humor. Mr. Slade, may I ask what you are doing here?
I'm going to check the field.
For?
The lady in white.
I suppose I shall come with you.
If you must.
Tomas, go home.
He's following behind you, and he says, I didn't realize there was so much interest in this woman. I feel like maybe I chose the wrong profession. I should have been a reporter. I could be well on top of this right now. I suppose I could be a freelancer.
Freelancer. What is that even? I feel like that is just a word you just made up.
I did not just make it up. It comes from Arthurian times, when your lance was free to be hired by a lord or a king or something. And if you're a freelancer, it means your lance, the pen, mightier than the lance, is free to be hired.
Yes, well, Mr. Slade, shall we?
He's already walking.
Indeed. When the three of you arrive at the field, let's talk about the field a little bit. We've already kind of talked about, interestingly, last time for Paint the Scene, we talked about how there were like graves on the property. And that's an interesting detail to be sure. But we have another question here as well. This neglected field behind the Carson homestead, mostly fallow, but with sporadic unharvested growth. And at the end of the field is a 6-foot-long depression in the dirt that stands out because there's nothing growing around it. It's almost like a perfect rectangle. Paint the scene, everyone. What here would make you think that this field is a grave?
Some of the dirt is turned up. It is a field. People walk in it, and then occasionally, I assume, gets plowed. There's little bones. They look like little pebbles. They look like maybe little pieces of just stuff that happens in soil. But if you look closer, it's definitely pieces of bone, picked apart, broken apart, perhaps by
Tomas
animals.
is presently holding up a finger bone, and he says, when I was a kid, I used to collect shark's teeth from the beach, but I suspect there's probably not any shark's teeth here.
I believe that's just a twig. Just throw it away.
He tosses it. Everyone else, how is this grave?
There's what might have been a little cairn at the head, but it's been disturbed and scattered probably by wind and animals, and it's vague at this point.
The corners of the field have like these dead trees and these kind of crows that perch in all of them. It gives it a very it gives the impression that it's a grave.
I think it's just kind of a well-worn track through the field, as though somebody's been walking repeatedly to the same spot and back again out of the field.
Slade and Sister Mary, you are here at the field. It's as I've described, sporadic growth, that strange rectangle on the far side that you can see where nothing is growing. Slade, what do you do?
Going to go check out the maybe grave and see if I can death sense anything.
Mm-hmm. I think because of your basic nature, I'll tell you some things. It is just a kind of roughly rectangle shaped patch of earth where everything is dead. So there's like sprouts of grass and wildflowers all around. But then in this particular spot, it's just withered.
Slade will crouch down next to it and not touch anything, carefully, and yeah, he'll look up at the sister and say, "Did you bring a shovel?"
No, but this young man seems enthusiastic.
I did
Perhaps
also not bring a shovel.
I meant you can dig it up with your hands.
No.
No, I really gotta be going.
Yes, I thought so.
He's like, as he's stepping away though, he's like, but I think I saw some tools laying around. I'm sure there's something you can kind of make do.
Oh, you don't have to worry about it, my child. You can go on your way. You have many things to courier, I'm sure.
I do. Important correspondence from Austin, Texas. And
Yes.
To whom?
he's like, oh well, that would be a violation of federal law if I told you that, sir. I can't say.
I could just follow and watch.
I suppose you could, but you've got to dig up a grave or something.
Goodbye.
He's like, he goes and he gets back on his horse, unties it, and he's like, maybe I'll see you in El Paso. And he trots off. And indeed, you are there, left with your patch of earth. Sister Mary, what do you do?
Sister Mary kind of waves goodbye to Tomas happily and walks over back to the barn to find a tool to dig this grave up.
Yeah, indeed. Slade, anything you want to do before digging?
I think Slade would just stare at the maybe grave, look around, and ponder why this attachment to the vacant body. Puzzling over the human condition a little.
Yeah, I suppose. If you want to go deeper, you can have an information move.
Oh, then yes, he'll try and discern if there is more buried out here than just in this one spot.
Indeed. Roll with sensitivity.
8.
I actually think I would like for you to roll that at disadvantage because your death touch has put you on back foot because it didn't work.
Then that is 8.
Okay. We'll come back to that and let's have one more scene for Wyatt and Travis, then we'll wrap everything up and kind of call it a day phase. Wyatt Walker, where do you go after you're done with Lloyd Miller?
I'm gonna go talk to Del Sol.
Intriguing. Let's take a look at that move. The cellmate. Yeah, so I think when you go to back to the jail, he's there as he usually is. He says, Marshall, good to see you. Don't mind me, just sleeping it off as usual.
Sure. Mid-afternoon, you're still sleeping it off.
Yeah, well, that's what those of us who are just no good, miserable, useless to society drunks get up to. We sleep.
Yeah, I've been wondering about how no good and useful you are. See, you happen to know a fella named Lloyd Miller?
Lloyd Miller. It's a pretty nondescript name, Marshall. I feel like there's probably a lot of Lloyd Millers roaming around.
Yeah, there's one though. Seems he has a connection to you. And I was wondering if you might illuminate that a little.
Perhaps. I might need more to go on than that, though.
Well, he's here in town selling something. Windmills, something, air rifles. I don't know. But
I think I've seen him.
Why would he have this and just hold up the pocket watch with the symbol that matches the tattoo up to the bars?
Per the move, roll sensitivity.
Am I rolling at disadvantage?
Oh, because I can't trust the sun. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a bad roll. 4, 5. So, yeah.
5. Let's see. There's no miscondition on this. We'll come back to that. Travis, what are you doing after you're done looking at mirrors?
I wanted to see if I can speak to the manager of the place, ask them why the mirrors are covered. But if they're failing that, I was going to go back to the marshal's office or the marshal's house.
Yeah, you can be going back to the marshal's office. And as you're going to the marshal's office, to the jail, you see someone giving you a hard look. This person is, how to describe him? Give me a moment. I'll get a description. It's poor old Walt Lewis, the security guard, who allegedly shot the phantom burglar at point blank range. He's got a long face, circles under his eyes. He sees
Mr.
you.
Lewis, that's you?
He says, yes, it is. Travis Walker. I know what you've been doing, Travis Walker. Going around talking about how I'm yeller.
I never said that, Mr. Lewis. Why would you think that?
Clarence O'Toole seems to think that you've got a lot of opinions about my inability to do my job.
Clarence O'Toole got himself a big mouth.
Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't.
Out of it ain't worth listening to.
Maybe he does and maybe he doesn't, but everyone in El Paso knows that no one's got a bigger mouth than you, Travis Walker. And the only reason why no one's put a bullet in you yet is because you are the marshal's brother. Wyatt, this is your miscondition. You overhear the argument outside the jail between Walt and Travis. If you bump up the roll with the Janus Mask, Walt will ease off. If not, Walt's going to challenge Travis. And Del Sol says, sounds like things are getting a little spun up out there, Marshal. I don't know about you, but I'd much rather be in here than out there. You can join me anytime you like.
Think I'll mark a mask of the past.
And Del Sol smiles and says, but I got a feeling those two boys will get it worked out in the end. Walt says, you just keep your mouth shut, Travis Walker. Do you hear me?
Yeah, you got the wrong end of it, mister.
Yeah. He walks off. But you might have the distinct sensation that you just avoided something. Let's cut over to, I'll give you a clue in a bit, Wyatt. Let's cut over to Slade and Sister Mary. Slade, did you get a miss before?
No, got an 8.
We got an 8, that's right. Let's talk about clues. Those birds. David clearly knows nothing about fauna. Those were not crows. Those were Chihuahuan ravens. And indeed, one such raven flies over to your shoulder. And it's holding a long lock of black hair tied with a blue ribbon in its beak. And it drops it in your hand. And then hops up to your shoulder. And almost mockingly brushes up against your cheek like a cat to show that it has no effect on it. How does that make you feel?
Lost.
Take a condition called lost, and then the raven flies off, but you still have the lock of hair. Meanwhile, Sister Mary, we'll fast forward a bit. I assume you're all going to dig in that spot. Sister Mary, please do an information move with vitality. And let's see if you have a... No conditions affected. Just roll vitality.
Cool. I got a 2.
A 2. Great.
Snake eyes.
You're digging for a time as the sun is getting lower and lower in the sky. And you pull up the dirt to see what is so special about this place. And both of you see buried here in the bottom, there is indeed a coffin. Do you open it?
Yeah.
I will, yeah.
When you open the coffin, you see laid in it, Sister Mary, your religious vestments. How do you know they're yours?
There's that one spot right under the armpit that got torn years and years ago, and I've had to repatch over and over again. And I can see the same patch, the exact same patch I last applied to it.
Take the condition, return to the earth.
I might want to use a mask. I already have 2 conditions.
You can.
Perfect. I'm going to do that. I'm going to use a... I'm going to mark the moss-covered gate.
But of course, it's not your religious vestments at all. It is a white dress, but with no body. And that's your clue.
Out of character question, is it no body because the body has sort of decomposed away, or no body because there's no body?
There's just no body. The
'Kay.
the dress appears to have just been buried.
Yeah.
And I think that feels like a good place to wrap the day phase. Let's go to the dusk. Do we have any playbook moves that fire off in the dusk?
Not sure. I think Delso owes me a clue though.
Oh, I do. Thank you. Let's read it. Forgot about that for some reason. Let's read the actual move, what it says. On a 7 to 9. Oh, you get a clue. You reveal it in a way that reflects his current disposition, which is currently a friendly drunk. I think as you're maybe stepping out to make sure Travis is okay. And you'll see Walt kind of walking off. Del Sol will say, Marshall. Kind of, he says, I found this in the cell.
What'd you find, Del Sol?
And he holds a daisy out between the bars.
I'll take it. Kind of look sideways at him. Tired of you playing games with me, Del Sol. You know who Lloyd Miller is.
It's like, Marshall, I'm not good at games. I'm way too inebriated for that as a general matter.
Huh.
And he sits back down on the bed.
You best to stay in that cell then for a bit. Don't need you to be getting up into anything on Santa Fe Street.
I just need to sleep it off, Marshall. Oh, he stretches and lies back on the cot. But your clue is that there was a daisy placed in the jail cell.
Yeah.
And now we'll go to our phase. Oh, we got another mastermind clue too. Better write it down. It was Clarence O'Toole.
Missed that one. I do have a
Reveals-
narration I have to do for my mask, but I think I'm going to save it until the dawn phase, because it's a narrated scene involving the people of El Paso, and I feel like it just fits better in the day. Or in the
No, it's fine by me. Yeah. Let's keep going with Dusk. All right. So let's talk about the Wounded Knight a little bit. As we know, as we talked about last time, the Wounded Knight does cause all kinds of strange things to happen, not just ghosts necessarily. Last time we talked about the children. Today we're going to talk about the agriculture of El Paso during the season of the Wounded Knight. Because the season of the Wounded Knight corresponds with the harvest, of course, or coincides with it. When crops are being taken in, a portion of the crops is always negatively affected by the thinning of the veil between worlds. How?
They grow too large to be supported by their stalk. It's warped and kind of disgustingly large.
The colors are off. They're the right colors, sort of. The hues are wrong. They're darker when they should be lighter, or they're lighter when they should be darker. It doesn't really make sense unless you're. Most people wouldn't notice, but if you're familiar with what's going on, you would notice.
There are these kind of geometric patterns in the wheat that are where it's been flattened or trampled down. Looks like, but no, no sign of how it could have been done, or no evidence of who could have done it.
A portion of the crops are affected by something the locals will come to call like creeping roots, and when they haul them out of the ground, bugs or something they can't ever really see, like, causes the ground to shift and shuffle, and like something goes scurrying and off under the dirt. And those crops, they just burn them. They're too concerned to try and eat them.
Very good. Thank you, everyone. And now let's talk about the night phase. What is everyone doing tonight? Or what do they want to do? Because, of course, you may not get to do it, but we'll see. Also, if anybody wants to answer a question, now is the time to do it.
I feel like we have enough clues to probably answer the question for the lady in white.
Let's remind ourselves what the questions are. You currently have 8 clues on a question with a 6 complexity. The question is, how can we get the lady in white to pass on to the next world, which would allow you to perform the quieting ritual on the lady in white if you succeed. Does someone have a theory? We can take a little break if we need.
Yeah, maybe a quick break.
We'll take 5. Take 5 just to. We might take another break shortly thereafter, but we'll take 5 for now just to ruminate. Okay. Theories about the lady in white. Who has a solution for this question? How do we get her to pass on to the next world?
I was just talking during our little break there about how I think it's possible that the Carson homestead was failing out of just natural means, poor farming, poisoned water well, clearly, bad well. Very homesteads like this, people die, it happens, and it's unfortunate. And out of pride, because we were talking about how people are very prideful here in El Paso. Out of pride, the Carsons came up with a story. Oh, we're not failures as homesteaders. This place is evil. It's haunted. And because of the Wounded Knight, a tulpa was formed, this lady in white, that they told stories about. Now she's real.
They manifested her
into
the world. Oh, intriguing.
Or with the grave being there, maybe it didn't manifest her so much as it embodied itself in this innocent young dead girl.
Yeah.
Intriguing. I like the idea that the basic idea is interesting, that the Carsons willed her into existence. Well, the Wounded Knight basically just took them up on the offer, right? Essentially. But we gotta, I'm seeing some head nods, so that's good, but we gotta get through these clues. So yes. What do we think?
Well, I think Otis Carson did not die when touched by death, not just because of death's abilities to do so, but because he is now connected to this whatever kind of demonic being that is showing up and that's been manifested.
Okay, feels like a good start. The die roll's currently at -5.
Yay.
I like what Ben was saying about kind of tying in this existing grave with this innocent person, which could tie in the wedding dress in the grave, and potentially the ring.
Yeah, maybe even the jawbone, like what made her up is now infecting the area around, spreading out.
Right, yeah, because she's like risen, her body rose out of the grave, and therefore there's kind of bits of her and bits of her possessions that she was buried with.
Yeah, we've seen bones and things as well, so so maybe there was a body in there. And
Yeah.
it
I mean,
kind of
that,
just
yeah,
yeah.
but that manifested. I mean, it wasn't necessarily. Yeah, this kind of manifestation of their explanation for their failure,
Or just the
is what
demon did it, right?
animated the body. Yeah,
The demon just sort of
so
like,
that could, I mean, that could tie in the lock of hair as well,
It's
and the
possible too
jawbone,
that
and the dusty ragdoll.
there was a young woman that Otis was engaged to,
mhm.
and like so many other people on the Carson homestead, she died before they could get married. And again, out of pride, oh well, yes, she's clearly haunting this place. I wasn't a terrible fiance.
Oh, I see. So they like
didn't
put
fa-
all
I
their
didn't
all their
fail, though,
failures
yeah.
on this.
Yes.
Yeah.
On this story, which became true, this demon or whatever
Yeah. Yeah. I like it.
popped in and took over this story and made it real. And when it took her body, I guess, for that form from her grave, it brought the silver ring up with it
Yeah.
because that was
And
a
that-
symbol of their relationship.
We could tie the flowers in there as well, right? Because that's kind of the flowers being a.
Wedding.
I mean, if they're specific,
Yeah,
well,
I
they're
mean-
wedding, but also specifically them being white is kind of brings to mind like funeral lilies, right? So there's this kind of
It's kind of
double
meaning,
motif
yeah.
to it.
Yeah, double meaning. It's pretty good. Yeah. I think it's looking pretty good so far. I wonder if the ragdoll missing its head is actually like a weird sort of cosmic joke about the head of the young woman's corpse being removed because you found the jawbone, you found some teeth, like there's like or something. I don't know, maybe just as a sort of like
Maybe she just died as an accident on the road.
mhm.
This young woman, maybe not from this area, who came to marry this young man, died in an accident on the road. Maybe he hit her with a carriage by accident in the middle of the night. And of course, that's another one of his family failures. He didn't kill her. This is a ghostly phenomenon.
Or we know the road is treacherous. She could have
Yeah.
just that would also explain the busted wheel.
Yeah.
Or even he was driving the carriage and she was in it, and he like drove it off the
Yeah.
road,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
she was killed, and he blames himself.
And
And
the
But he blames it on a curse rather than saying, "Oh, I was."
Yeah, he doesn't want
not
to take
handling the carriage well.
responsibility. Yeah,
Yeah,
he doesn't want to
yeah.
take the responsibility because that will destroy his family and his reputation in town. And that actually is the reason why his family was destroyed,
Yeah.
is
Mhm.
because
And maybe they never recovered the body, so they just buried the dress.
Mm.
It's
If you're
very
saying
interesting.
It was an accident, and like an accident off the road.
yeah.
I mean, I think probably the body was originally in and just withered away because we found like a jawbone.
Yeah,
and there's
and,
like,
Yeah.
a bit of hair from it as
Right.
well.
That's
Right,
why I
but we
think. That's why I
we
think the
found that,
ragdoll is
like-
like a.
yeah.
Right, but we found all of that like elsewhere. So like,
Mm,
yeah, the
mm,
body, they never recovered the body and buried it. The body was, so it's just kind of scattered to the winds.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
and so, and so
animals.
that's what the ragdoll's about. The ragdoll's like
Yeah.
kind of like almost like the ghost saying like my pieces are missing, right? Like
Yeah.
yeah. That's
Or even
intriguing.
they recovered the body but not the head.
That could be.
Ooh,
Yeah, that's pretty good. Oh, I like that. That's pretty good. That I
Yeah.
think that ties the ragdoll in, missing its head a little
Yeah,
bit.
and the jawbone, right? Because the jawbone is like
Yeah.
from wherever the head ended up.
or
And
And
all
Right.
the other bones are from all the other people that have died on this treacherous road. And this demonic being is pulling everything up out of the
Mm.
ground as a show that this is a terrible place.
Well, does it even have to be a demonic being anymore? I mean, can't it just be the actual ghost of the girl now?
It seems,
It could
yeah, it
be.
seems like
Yeah,
it might just
and-
be the
Yeah.
ghost of the girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
she
And the-
won't-
and the-
Yeah, she's superseding Death's ability and keeping Otis Carson alive for her own purposes, whether it's
Yeah.
because she wants to like fulfill this life goal of marrying
Yeah.
him, even though she's dead.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I
or-
love it. I think it's great.
But also,
It's
the more
complicated
power
grief.
the more power she's kind of gaining from his belief in this curse or this whatever,
Yeah.
then she's like causing the accidents on the road. She's the reason the
Yeah.
road is so treacherous, that this weird
Yeah.
power is like warping things. And
Yeah, it was bad before, now it's worse. And I think that
Right.
that's a complicated grief thing. She both loves and hates this guy.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we're feeling pretty good about this. I mean, I don't even think necessarily the sort of like backstory of like this is why the farmstead failed is even needed, because once you do the Otis like was gonna
Yeah.
marry her and then they buried her story. I think that's like sufficient, right? Like I think that kind of covers it all. The Carson homestead clearly, yeah, maybe they ultimately failed because of just like they just abandoned the place because of grief or whatever, or maybe during the last season of the Wounded Knight they started to get evidence of like the Lady in White or something, who knows. But this is feeling pretty good though. I think basically the story of this was a young woman who was meant to marry Otis but died on the trail on the way over. They buried her body there on the land, were never able to recover all of it. And so they just buried the dress in it, I guess, or they, that's what they ultimately they buried, or maybe just it was just the dress with no head, who knows. But ultimately they kind of start to attribute like the bad luck at the homestead to this event, right? And then the season of the Wounded Knight comes and she returns. They essentially manifest her by imbuing so much into this story, and connecting it so closely to their homestead and the land. And she won't allow Otis to die. She's intervening because she still wants to get married. And it kind of feels like maybe that's the nature of how to resolve this problem, right?
Ghost wedding.
Ghost wedding. Yeah, it kind of feels like
Yay.
that's what's going to happen here. Let's see if this is correct. Amanda, why don't you go ahead and roll 2d6 plus 2?
Oh, you're asking me, the person who's very good at rolls. Jesus.
What was it?
Our old snake eyes again.
No. That's terrible.
How would everybody feel about using a mask? We do have the Mask of Lonesomeness.
Yeah, one person can choose the Mask of Lonesomeness, and then everybody else has to mark past or future. Yep. If you want to bump it up to 7 to 9, which means that the ghost will fight you, basically, or it'll be hard in some way.
I guess we can't use the mask from the other threat, right?
No, you may not. No.
Oh, because that's only unlocks if you complete it. Yeah, right.
No, it's available, but it's just only for that threat.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, makes sense.
I can mark the Cosmic Passage. It doesn't do much damage to me. It doesn't do any damage to me.
I'm happy to mark something.
I mean, if you don't, I will tell you that the miss means that the Lady in White is going to be attacking you all pretty violently during this night phase.
I'll mark something.
All right, I've marked the Cosmic Passage, so somebody else can mark the Mask of Lonesomeness.
Okay. I'll mark the Mask of Lonesomeness if nobody else is going to.
I got the Mask of the Past.
Yeah, I'll do a Mask of the Past.
Very good. So it's a 7 to 9. Let's, for just posterity, we'll read the move here. On a 7 to 9, you are correct. The opportunity can be pursued, which is you can perform this ghost wedding, but it will be more dangerous than it would have been otherwise. And continuing on. So what is everyone doing? Let's get around the table. Sister Mary Erstwhile, what do you intend to do tonight?
I mean, I'm probably going to try and officiate this ghost wedding.
Feels good. Slade?
I need to punish a wayward soul by sending it back to the spirit realm. This sounds like a Lady in White thing, so he'll be there.
Very good. Wyatt, are you putting on your best bolo tie and hat here for this ghost wedding?
I'm trying to figure out if there's something else I ought to be up to this evening. Let's see what Travis is doing.
Well, I was thinking that Slade and Sister Mary might need some kind of protection.
Flower boy.
Yeah, what better to protect them than a pair of magical guns?
So Travis is
Yeah.
doing security detail.
Yeah, I think I'll be in attendance.
Very good. Very good. Very
Gotta
good.
have 2 witnesses, right?
Indeed. Well, Brandy will be there. So, okay, I love it. At this point, if anybody wants to go ahead and do their Janus Mask options, or prompts, they may go ahead and do that. Otherwise, you can wait until the dawn.
Since I marked the Cosmic Passage, I get to increase my sensitivity by 1 to a max of 3, and that does bring me to the max of 3. So
Okay, very good. Any other Janus Mask?
I think I'll wait till dawn. Need to do research.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait till dawn. I'm just kind of thinking.
Yeah, we've all got the each hunter narrating a flashback to a time they felt truly alone as well.
Yeah,
so.
that's that. Yeah, everybody has to do that also. Yeah, you might be able to wrap them up in another, but yeah. Okay, good. And the unseen. Our unseen for tonight is called the Texas Diamondback Rattlesnake. The Texas Diamondback is responsible for most of the deaths from snake bites in the Southwest. In their defense, they do give a vigorous warning in the form of a rattle before they strike. Everyone does the paint scene. Prompt 2 will be for Ben. Prompt 3 will be for Amanda. And prompt 4 will be for Rob. Let's go ahead and take 5 minutes. We'll come back and maybe have a ghost wedding. Texas Diamondback Rattlesnake. A large specimen, about 5 feet in length, is stretched out on a big rock as the sun goes down. Please describe the unsuspecting varmints it takes a pass on.
It's flicking its tongue out, scenting the air as something armored goes trundling past. An armadillo starts to make its way past the snake before it hears a rattle, and it clambers up into a little ball.
Snake doesn't want leprosy.
Yeah, the snake's unimpressed and turns its head, and the armadillo unravels and makes its way fast off into the brush.
the snake has stretched out on this rock, relaxing in the sun as it goes down, and it's not that far from the opening in the ground where a bunch of voles are poking their heads out. This is where they come out. And it's had a meal today. It's feeling pretty good. It's feeling nice and relaxed and warm in the sun and doesn't really want to go after it, but it takes note of where these voles are coming out. So when it wants lunch, it knows where to go.
2 coyotes walk past. One of them is pretty pregnant, and they stop and sniff around the rock under the snake, looking for a den for the whelping. And there's not enough space under it, so they move on. But we see the snake evaluating them as they disappear into the scrub.
And we see a possum kind of picking its way through the scrubby brush, and the snake's tongue flicks out, scenting the air, and it rattles, and the possum immediately plays dead, and foam starts to come out of its mouth, and it just gives off this revolting smell, and the snake passes it by.
You're going to the chapel to see a ghost get married, except the chapel is a barn, and the groom may not know that he's getting married. I'm curious, though, as the four of you are making your way up that narrow foothills road. How do you look right now? Please describe your manner of dress or preparations for the wedding.
Sister Mary Erstwhile has this look of annoyance on her face. This is irritating. I have to go and officiate this wedding for what, ghosts? That's not only just completely silly, but also there's nothing. You don't feel anything. There's nothing in the world right now that's looking down on us, that's looking down on this man, this ghost. This is all for nothing. This is just, it's just show. It's just play acting. And I don't want to play act.
Slade, how are you dressed for the wedding?
Exactly as he was during the day, except he is wearing his gloves tonight.
Wyatt?
I think I'm walking on the road next to Sister Mary, and I've got my normal clothes on. I took the time to like brush them off, but that was about it. And I'm carrying a shotgun. Like, I hear you need these for weddings sometimes. But I think I'm kind of walking with the sister and like trying to reassure her of how important this is to the town. That she do this thing.
Travis?
Travis is, put on a clean shirt and tucked it in properly. He's wearing his little cavalry cap, but he has every intention of removing that once he gets to the ceremony, and his hair's like nicely combed for a change. And yeah, but the two pistols are prominent on his hips.
Slade, do you hear a rider on a horse approaching from behind? And a voice. Hello? Hello, it's me. Don't shoot. And Tomas Chavez pulls his horse up to alongside your group.
Mr. Chavez, this is town business. This is not federal business. You should go back down and lay your little head down before you got to head back to Austin, was it?
Austin, Texas. Yes, sir. Well, I always on the go. The life of the courier never ends. Always something needs to be curried somewhere. I was hoping I could maybe curry favor with all of you to maybe, well, I come along. I know what you're doing. I know you're going back to that place, to the Carson homestead. And well, I've had an idea for a story. I think I might try that freelancing after all.
Very well.
Out of character, what wedding jobs do we have assigned, and what do we still need to, like, he could be the usher?
Or he could give away the bride.
Oh my gosh.
He's like, and I think at this point he'll kind of look up at the red moon and he'll say, I know that whatever you're wherever you're going, whatever you're doing, I know it's got something to do with that moon. I know that this place is, I've heard stories about El Paso and the Wounded Knight. And well, I just wanted to kind of see it for myself,
Really don't have room for tourists tonight.
Well, I'm going this way anyway, so it's a narrow road.
Well, Thomas, it's your soul. You get to choose what to do with it.
I think Slade will kind of snort at that, just slightly.
Indeed.
Travis gives him a kind of narrow-eyed look, but decides against saying anything because he doesn't want Wyatt to think he's caught in trouble.
I think Tomas will pull out a fresh journal that has never been used, and he opens it up, and he has one of those newfangled fountain pens, also quite fresh, purchased from Tessa and Lucia, and he says, "Now, do I understand, sir, that you are the legendary Sidewinder Kid?"
I don't know about legendary, but
I reckon the papers would like a story about a legendary gunman out here in El Paso.
well, that'd be just fine. But I think now is not the time for an interview, sir.
And he's like, "Well, I've heard things. I've heard how, well, just 3 nights ago, you got into a shootout with a man in the middle of the street. They say he never even had a chance. He never even got his gun out of the holster before he dropped dead.
You're the most busybody.
And that you shot him in the neck. My God.
The most busybody courier I've ever encountered. How did they put up with you in Austin?"
It's like, well, I would imagine that a courier that just sort of lounges about and doesn't take any initiative would be not very good at his job, don't you think? But somewhat by definition, you're always on the go.
Yeah, you're always on the go, but you're always putting your nose where it don't belong. Good gracious.
Back to the Texas Diamondback rattlesnake, Ben, the rattler, eventually slides down its rock onto the sandy ground. Describe its early evening snack of insects living in the desert scrub.
The snake winds its way through the scrub, moving almost silently, and as it moves, the sound of crickets and the nightlife starting to wake steadily grows quieter and quieter as it gorges itself on everything it comes across.
You get to the Carson homestead. You can see lantern light coming from the barn. And you see against the baleful red moonlight the silhouette of Brandy Carson with a rifle. She challenges you all. She says, "I know what you're here to do. I figured it out as soon as you dug up that white dress. Believe you me, that girl was no good. No good at all. There's no way none of us was going to let her marry Otis. Wasn't going to happen. Some might even say that we took matters into our own hands. Wagon wheels. Real shame when they come loose like that. Now I'm going to ask all of you to turn back around. Go back to El Paso. Leave us be. I'll deal
Wyatt,
with
did
the
I
lady
just
in
hear
white.
this lady admit to a federal crime?
With state
She-
crime as well.
She admitted all kinds of
I don't know
crimes.
the difference.
And a local crime.
Yeah.
Crime against God.
Slade
all the
will step
crimes.
forward and just say, "You asked me to help your nephew, Brandy Carson. This is how we do it."
No, Mr. Slade, we are not going to do what you intend.
What's Otis have to say on the matter, Brandy?
I am Otis's legal guardian. What he has to say on the matter is neither here nor there.
He's an adult. Let him speak for himself.
She raises the gun.
I advise you not to do that, Miss Carson.
And she points at you and she says, "Who's going to stop me? The Sidewinder Kid?"
Yes, ma'am.
Slade, what are you doing right now?
It's just going to keep walking toward the barn.
She fires a warning shot. Blast goes off, kicks up some rock near your feet. She says, "Not one more step, Mr. Slade."
I think that at that point, Salvation comes out of its holster and is pointed straight at her.
She turns. Paint the scene, everyone. Even in the baleful red moonlight, Salvation's holiness shines through. How?
Despite
There's-
the
Please go.
despite the red light, it glints in silver.
As it's pulled from its holster, there's the sound of crickets and all those night sounds that are happening get silent. And it's almost like you could hear the sound of a choir of voices just singing on a long, solid note, like a, I don't know, like a middle G kind of note. A good one, not spooky.
A serpent, otherwise on the prowl, buries itself under the sand as quickly as it possibly can as soon as that's out of its holster.
Yeah, I was going to go with the light thing as well. I'm trying to think of another suggestion now.
That's okay. We can keep going. I think we've covered it pretty well. The question for you, Travis, is if she makes a move with her gun, are you going to take her out?
Yeah.
Indeed. You are always faster. You always win. And we'll go ahead and say this is part of your cursed mission as well. Salvation. Describe how Brandy Carson's death is somehow beautiful and write down a heavenly detail about the engraving on the pistol.
I think it's the gun box. It's almost like time seems to stop and she falls, not crumpling to the ground, but almost as if she's laying down gently to go to sleep. There's no evidence of any blood. It's not like blood leaking out onto the ground underneath her. There's no mark on her clothes. It's almost as if, she just laid down and went to sleep.
How's the gun change?
I think the handle, which is kind of, like a pearl type finish, the carving on the handle just looks like angels' wings.
Note that detail down. And Amanda, Texas Diamondback rattlesnake. Hunting at night for the main course, the rattler is locked onto a whip-tailed lizard fixing its sandy burrow. How does the rattler eventually defeat its smaller prey? Feels like a great echo opportunity here.
This rattler knows that it is faster and smarter and bigger than this poor little lizard. And it lets the lizard get its back up against the back of the burrow to make it feel like it's a little bit safe. And when the lizard starts to puff up, make itself big, make itself scary, that's when the rattler attacks. And it attacks so quickly and so quietly and so beautifully. The lizard doesn't even know that it's happened before it's gone. And it's a beautiful reflection of nature, of how things can happen so peacefully, even though they're violent. And the snake has its meal and slips off into the night.
Slade, you're the only one that can see the lady in white initially. She's walking out in the field, her white dress standing out quite bright against the red light. That swirl of roses or white flowers spinning around her. No one else seems to have taken notice of her, so you know you're the only one who can see her, because it's pretty plain otherwise. What do?
I'm going to go collect her. It's time for her wedding.
She turns to you. And she says, "Do you remember me? The day I died."
No, I'm sorry. But I'm here for you now.
And she takes your hand. You can lead her to the barn. What are the rest of you doing?
Sister Mary Erstwhile is watching everything that's going on, seeing how the Sidewinder kid reacts to Brandy Carson, watching how Wyatt Walker reacts to the Sidewinder kid, and very much watching how Mr. Slade holds up his hand to nothing and walks into the barn with purpose. And she follows.
I think we should have a scene between Wyatt and Travis post Brandy.
Yeah, I think like almost as soon as the gun goes off, Wyatt Travis just gets this look on his face, just kind of looking down, like he's waiting for that voice that he knows is coming, waiting for that judgment.
And Wyatt comes over and he takes the gun and he opens it the way that Schofield's open. The top breaks and it throws out the empty shell. And he takes one off of your belt and he puts it in, slams the gun closed, puts it into your holster. You done good, Travis.
And I think at that, Travis just kind of gets a lump in his throat because it was the opposite of what he was expecting. You see what? I didn't have no choice. I didn't want to shoot that lady.
Nope, but you did. You're gonna have to carry it.
I know.
I tried to get her. You were faster. I wish I could carry it for you, Travis. I don't know where those pistols came from. Seems they're your problem.
Travis just kind of nods.
And I think we'll see. You all won't see. But standing across the way, her gold dress, almost like fire in the red moonlight, the lady in gold, watching the scene play out. And she turns and walks around the corner. Rob? The rattler is back on their sunning rock just as the dark sky is tinged pink. How do things end when an industrious Harris hawk snatches it off the rock?
I think the hawk snatches it up with its claws, but it does so a little further along the back of the snake than it intended to. And as it pulls it up into the sky, the snake's head twists around and it buries its fangs in the hawk's chest, and the two of them tumble together end over end and splash into the river below.
Slade, you're the first in the barn with the lady in white. Otis is sitting up in the bed, drenched in sweat. And he says, I heard gunfire.
Yes.
Well, what's going on? Is my aunt okay?
No.
Well, what's happening? What are you doing here?
I promised your aunt to help you. I will.
And I think at this point he can see the lady in white. And he says, oh my. Oh, I didn't think I'd ever see you again. Surely this is the fever is affecting me. I see all sorts of things and hear things now. And he looks at you, Slade. He says, this is the end, isn't it?
Yes.
And here we'll just go round robin style with everyone describing a little bit of the wedding between Otis and the lady in white, thereby resolving the threat, putting her at peace, and maybe Otis at peace too as well. David, you can kick off.
I think we're proceeding through the usual ritual of marriage, and whenever, as was customary, the Sister Mary asks the room, does anyone object? The marshal just kind of sweeps the room with the shotgun, looks outside.
Keep it going, Rob.
When they reach the point with the exchange of vows, I think the voice coming from the ghostly figure of the woman, it's just this kind of papery hiss that only Sister Mary can hear.
Ben.
Slade will, as the vows wind down, he will say to them, never alone in life, never alone in death. Fear not.
And Amanda, wrap up the wedding and indeed the resolution of the threat.
Sister Mary Erstwhile gives Slade a dirty look when he says that, because that is demonstrably not true. And she looks back at the young man that's getting married, I suppose, to nothing, because she can't see anything, and finishes off the ceremony with the traditional blessing from the Lord, who doesn't care and doesn't see this. But folks that believe will believe. You can believe in anything, and it's fine. And she blesses the two married people and pronounces them husband and wife, and watches to see what happens, assuming it's going to be nothing.
Except he dies. And she kisses his dead body and disappears. But as you all exit the barn, with the sun just peeking up over the horizon, you'll see the two of them walking out in the deep part of the field, hand in hand. That concludes the night phase. We have quite a lot of Janus Mask to do, so why don't we take a quick break? Let's take like a 3-minute break just to get our get sorted. Remember, everyone has to do the Mask of Lonesomeness, and then several of you have other Janus Mask as well. All right, so we'll see in just a few. Whoever wants to start with Janus Mask, please read the prompt and do what it says.
I can go. Narrate a flashback to your childhood that shows your struggle to be noticed by your sibling. So I think we see a very young Travis, and his brother has been out hunting for raccoons and come back with his dog and several of the dead animals kind of on a stick that he's carrying over his shoulder, tied the tails to the stick and carrying them back to the house, ready to get skinned. And Travis is determined he's gonna go one better. And his dog is kind of smaller and wilder and not as well trained. But that night he sets off into the woods with his little .22 hunting rifle and his dog. And he gets hopelessly lost in his attempt to doesn't even see a raccoon. Never mind shoot one. The dog's leading him in circles. And at some point the dawn starts to crack, and he realizes he has no idea where he is. And for the first time in his life, he's kind of truly on his own, doesn't know where the town is, doesn't know where their homestead is. And yeah, I think he just sits down on a rock, and kind of his dog comes up and nuzzles him, and he just starts to cry.
Fabulous. Who wants to go next?
I can do the Mask of Lonesomeness, wherein each hunter narrates a flashback to a time they felt truly alone. It is a beautiful, clear night. The sky is dark and the stars are very bright. We see Sister Mary Erstwhile standing on the edge of a ship as it crosses the Atlantic. And she has in her hand a very worn Bible It just clutched to her heart as she looks out over the dark black ocean. There's a noise behind her. Someone says, "Hey, hey, you!" It's a young woman. A young woman that Sister Mary Erstwhile recognizes. And the woman says, "Aren't you Harriet Head? What are you doing here?" And the reply is, "No, I'm Sister Mary Erstwhile," with her best affected American accent she could possibly muster. "You must be confused." And the young woman apologizes and goes away. And Sister Mary Erstwhile looks back to the ocean, looks up at the sky, at the universe that so often when she looks up into it, it gives her comfort because she knows that it's all part of something bigger. And she flips through her Bible to a marked passage about the beauty of the universe, the beauty of the world, and she feels nothing.
Fantastic. Travis, I gather you were combining the Mask of Lonesomeness with the Mask of the Past there. That's what I figured. Who wants to go next?
I can go. I would also be combining the Mask of Lonesomeness with narrative flashback to the first primeval death you witnessed as your sibling famine did their work. And I think at the very beginning, there was awareness without consciousness in the world, and the moving things slowly rose out of the water, and as they did, it gave something to this presence, and it began to take a bit of a form, but it was entirely alone with none of its siblings yet. But soon one of the first crawling things found themselves trapped in a tide pool with nothing for sustenance. And that was when he discovered his sibling. It discovered its sibling. And when it first lost a bit of itself to this creature as it died.
Fantastic. Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, I can do mine. So I think narrating a flashback to a petty crime scene that thrilled you into wanting more. I think a teenage Marshall, Wyatt Walker, not the Marshall, is running down the street. Him and several others clearly running as fast as their legs can carry them. Their hands filled with just little trinkets and knickknacks and candy, and parts of it just falling out from between their splayed fingers as they are carrying as much as they possibly can. And then a shop door bursts open behind them as their crime has been discovered. And the shopkeep is swinging like a club or a stick over his head, like, "Y'all get back here and bring all that back, or it's going to be worse for you. I know who all of you are." But not a one of them is stopping to turn and face the rap. All of them are running as fast as they possibly can. And then the Mask of Lonesomeness. Sometime later, a young man, Wyatt Walker, bursts into a room that has a mattress and not much else. He's covered in blood, and his hands are covered in blood, and his like suit jacket is covered in blood, and his bandana that he had over his mouth is covered in blood, and he pulls it down, and he's breathing as hard as he possibly can. And he closes the door behind himself, and he takes the pistol out from his hand, or out from his holster, and he drops it onto the mattress, and it's covered in blood. And he just starts breathing really heavily, and he puts his hands over his face, and just starts wailing.
I do have because I decided last minute to switch my mask from the whatever it was, Mask of the Future. I switched it from the Cosmic Passage to a Mask of the Past because I want to save the Cosmic Passage for a little bit. So I have to narrate a flashback to a time when you were before you were part of the clergy, when you were strong in your faith. And we see smoggy London at night. And there is a group of what looks like young men kind of skittering through the alleys, laughing and shushing each other. On a closer zoom in, we can tell that these are a variety of women dressed as men, like fake. The mustaches are real fake, but the idea is just to not get spotted in the dark. As they slip through the darkened alleys of London, one of them is clutching a few different bottles of wine, clearly stolen from some fantastic winery. And they sneak their way through a set of doors, and we see a beautiful cathedral with beautiful stained glass windows. And yeah, one of the other young people in this gang of thieves says, "Harriet Head, I can't believe that idea worked. Your mother, if she knew, she would lose her mind." And this young Sister Mary erstwhile replies, "Oh, she's too busy being involved in everybody else's business. She can't be involved in mine." They laugh together, holding these bottles of wine. And then out of the darkness steps an angel. A beautiful specimen, unparalleled in any sort of beauty, any more beautiful than any sculpture or piece of art or even description in the Bible. And she steps out of the shadows, her hand out to take the bottles of wine that her followers have brought for her. And Sister Mary erstwhile very gratefully hands them over, gazing up at this beautiful woman, her heart just full of faith, knowing that if someone this beautiful and perfect and amazing could exist in a world with all this darkness and evil, then there must be a being watching over everyone to give the world a gift like this person. And Sister Mary erstwhile bows, and the woman, this angel, nods her head, and that's where the flashback ends.
Fabulous. Any other Janus Mask that's owed currently? Okay. Well, let's collect rewards since you did resolve a threat. I will paste those or drop those in the chat, not paste them. Let's just drop those in there. And I'll read them for people watching the video. A beautifully composed love letter that is unsigned and unaddressed. You add it to your personal quarters if you choose that one. A bride's veil, add it to your personal quarters. And then there are 3 mementos from the investigation. You ask another hunter what it is and then add it to your personal quarters. These mementos could be something we saw or didn't see in the game, as long as it makes sense. So who wants what?
I think Sister Mary erstwhile is going to snag that composed love letter, unsigned and unaddressed, and add it to her weird shrine.
You can add that to your personal quarters.
I think Travis will take a memento and ask Wyatt to define what it is.
It's got to be something from Brandy, I feel like, right?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, let me think about it for a minute. Let's see. I think I'll take a memento as well and have I'll have a Slade can tell me what it is.
Slade, do you want the wedding veil or a memento?
Yeah, I'll take the veil.
Okay. So what do we think for these mementos? We can keep going for a minute too until you all think of them.
Wyatt, I think you get Brandy's shotgun.
Very good. Travis, I think that you have recovered Brandy's personal diary.
Mhm.
Brandy Carson's diary, Brandy Carson's shotgun. Fantastic. Dawn questions. So everyone has, did you answer a question and did you resolve a threat? And everyone gets credit for that because you did both. Echoes in the night. Did you have some thematic or visual references between the hunter scene and the rattlesnake scene? Starting on the left with the Sidewinder kid.
Once again, I forgot to do an echo in the night. I used to be good at that, and now I always forget.
Let's keep going. Travis, did you get in a fight with your sibling?
Yes.
Kind of, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Did you protect your sibling without them knowing about it?
I mean, I don't know that without them knowing about it. There were a couple of things there where I was trying to go toward that, one of which was when Tomas Chavez came out and decided he was going to come with us, and Travis was trying to keep an eye on him, but nothing really.
Yeah, we never actually saw
and the other one
Tomas did in the scene. He might have just like
right, and then the other
back
one was
and moved on
with Brandy, but that was definitely not without him knowing about it. So I don't think that really counts.
Yeah, fair enough. Let's go over to Sister Mary. Did you experience an echo in the night? Yes, you did. Yours was very, very, very
pretty heavy-handed.
Yeah, I thought it was good. It was probably the timing was perfect. So yeah, you were teed up really nice for that. Did you let yourself be driven by guilt?
I don't think so. I don't think there was a lot of guilt.
Did you decide to not give a damn, turning your back on righteousness? Yes, you definitely did that.
Yes.
Let's go to Slade. Did you experience an echo in the night, Slade?
That's what I was going for with the monogamous coyotes.
Indeed. Did you take time to puzzle over the human condition? I think you did.
You stared down at the grave, wondering what the fascination was.
Yeah. Did you punish a wayward soul by sending it back to the spirit realm?
He sent the bride back?
Yeah. I guess it was it a punishment? Well,
he was there to stop her from being a problem.
True. Yeah, I'll take it. Let's go to Wyatt Walker. Did you get an echo in the night, Wyatt?
I think so. I had a serpent fleeing from the holy gun.
Yeah, that was good. Did you come up with a rational explanation before accepting the supernatural truth?
Yeah, I'm still in denial that Del Sol is anything other than an accomplice of.
Yeah, you got a big assist from Del Sol on that. Yeah. Did you deliver a cold monologue about the cruelty of justice?
Kind of at the beginning when Travis Walker and I are.
Oh yeah, the chat with Travis
are talking.
Yeah.
And then at the end, like echoing it again, like you've got to carry these bodies. Like that's the cruelty of justice.
No, I thought it was good. Fabulous. The only playbook move I believe is basically the kid. You need to ask if you're being assigned a task. That a task could be as simple as like, don't shoot people.
Right. Failed at that one. Well, the other one that was super simple was like, bring me those whittling tools.
Yeah. That feels a little low. That feels a little small ball.
Very low stakes. Yeah.
I like the don't shoot people one personally, but yeah.
Well, I mean, that was yeah, the actual thing I asked you to do is bring me the whittling box, but yeah, I don't have another one for you yet.
I think I like the idea of just the general like advice of like be careful killing people. I think that was probably more salient. And next time,
And also
if you keep killing people, it's a problem.
And like not boasting, which he resisted doing when the messenger was kind of trying to get him to talk about his reputation.
Yeah. What I'm trying to figure out is whether you should be stressed right now because you had that conversation back in town and then you went and killed somebody.
Yeah,
I think probably so. So take stress.
So I take stress too.
And we're a little over time, but let's go ahead and do stars and wishes. I'll start. I really, really love this session. It was so good. I think this was, I truly believe this is like probably one of the best role-playing game sessions I've had in certainly in recent memory and maybe of all time. It was really, really good. I thought everything was just so rich and thematic. The characters were really on point. These are fascinating characters. So many good scenes. The marriage thing with at the end to resolve the threat was really, really well done. I just liked all of it. I loved the drama with Brandy, Carson, and I liked the humor with Tomas, Chavez, and kind of the back and forth, the interplay with that. Just seeing the characters like interact and talk to each other, it was just good. It just felt like a really, really, really good episode of TV show, and I was very, very happy with it. So just stars all around. It was good stuff.
Yeah, big stuff for me for David for like giving me so much to play off in that opening scene. That was really fun. That, you know, that's built up such an interesting dynamic between our two characters, and then like circling back to it right at the end with, you know, with the moment where Travis is expecting to get another berating from Wyatt, and Wyatt's actually, you know, you did good. That was really fun. And yeah, just the whole atmosphere of the investigation and the setting, and I really enjoyed the character of the gambler O'Toole, and I was really like hoping Travis would get to interact with that salesman guy, Lewis Miller, was it?
Lloyd Miller.
Lloyd Miller, yeah. So maybe next time that might be a bit of a wish. I think the other big wish for me is that Travis has not had really didn't get much interaction with the other two characters this time. I think we had a really fun little thing in the first episode between Travis and Ben's character Slade, and that felt like it was building to possibilities of that being quite an interesting relationship. And I don't think Travis has had any interaction with the system area, so let's do that.
I've got stars for Rob and David. Your like sibling interactions are so good. I have two brothers and a sister, so I've seen lots of different kinds of sibling interactions. So I see it. I can really tell that I really feel like these are siblings that care about each other, but also want to punch each other most of the time. And I really like those interactions. I love how Slade is still this looming presence everywhere he goes, and like a sort of unresponsive entity in every interaction that he has. And I mean that like in a really good way. I mean that in, we're as an audience learning about Slade as we go, and the characters around him don't really know how to interact with him. Of course, this is the inevitable, so it makes perfect sense. I really loved all the NPCs this session. I thought they were a lot of fun. Tomas is super annoying. I want to punch him, but that's just me being too systematic as well, I suppose. I'm excited for more of all of this. I am looking forward to interacting a bit more with Travis and Wyatt, because it's really not happened yet. I'm not really sure what kind of relationship Sister Mary will have with those people, so I'm excited to find out.
I want to put a star out there as well for all the Janus Mask narrations. They were really, really good. And obviously the little twist with Sister Mary was great fun. They were all really good. The Slade and famine thing was great. Like it kind of took the game into this like cosmic horror, almost like realm, which was really, really cool. So yeah, I dug that a lot. Good stuff.
Stars.
I forgot stuff. Amanda for tying in Blakely's Cathedral.
Stars was mentioned to Wyatt and Travis for all their scenes together. It was really great to see you bouncing off each other and that dynamic. Also, I really enjoyed small interactions, but I like this brewing wedge between Sister Mary, erstwhile, and Slade that I feel like a wish that's going to have to come to a head. We're going to have some kind of like big religious blow up.
Well, and you have the ability to eventually reveal your true nature to probably, I'm assuming it's going to go to Sister Mary. So that's where it seems like it's headed, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that'll be fun. Yeah, the NPCs were great. I hope we see more of Thomas as he explores this freelancing gig. And I really love every scene with Del Sol. That's just fascinating. Looking forward to seeing more of them, or I guess Slade wouldn't see them, but it's really cool. And yeah, the Daisy Man will be really interesting, especially because so far there's not a lot of death involved, so that'll be fun for Slade. I guess a wish is I look forward to a scene where someone who did know pre-death Slade interacts with new Slade and see how that goes.
I mean, it's theoretically all the other players, right? As well. So
yeah, I imagine that's coming. Yeah, definitely stars for everybody. This doesn't feel like session 2. This feels like session 4 or 5 as far as the understanding of the town and the understanding of everybody's characters. I'm definitely also looking forward to interactions between the player characters that haven't gotten to yet. I was trying to rope Sister Mary into a scene in the night, but we had no luck with that, as Courier Tomas comes riding up to plague the day. But that was great because he's pretty funny character. So I was a big fan of that. But yeah, I'm interested to see kind of what the dynamic is, because I feel like the Marshals trying to keep all this together and do all this stuff for the town, and that may not rub right with somebody who has any kind of ideas about, like, well, religiously, what does this mean? It's like, it doesn't matter, we're doing a ceremony, you better get in line for the good of the town. It's kind of the Marshals' take on it all, but that might not be how other people feel at all. I don't know what's going to be like when you're next with Slade. I think probably the Marshal does know pre-death Slade, so that might be interesting. Travis probably does too.
They all should, because he was on the Vigilance Committee before the Neville took over. So yeah.
Right. So that'll be pretty interesting. I'm reading the assemblage and trying to pick my moment. Feels like, when we wrote the move, there were maximum moments of impact. So I'm trying to think when that might happen. And I think, as I'm thinking of the mastermind and kind of a mid-season event, I wonder what this move means for that. I might need to think about that a little more critically, if it has any place at all in that. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to busting out that assemblage because it's a powerful move when it happens.
It is indeed. Fantastic. Any other stars and wishes? Okay. Wonderful session, everyone. Let's go ahead and wave goodbye to people watching the video.